On September 3, 2025, Beijing staged its most spectacular military parade in decades. Convoys of intercontinental ballistic missiles, sleek stealth drones rolled in arrow formation. Ship-killing weapons and directed energy systems turned slowly for the cameras, and packs of four-legged robots, the so-called robot wolves, trotted in step with human soldiers. Beijing's message is unambiguous. Each system revealed in Beijing points toward a single scenario: a war over Taiwan. The parade is not a show of prestige. It was a rehearsal, laying out how Beijing imagines such a war would unfold. The parade's most consequential statement was China's claim to possess a full nuclear triad. At the very end of the procession came the DF-5C, a silo-based missile upgraded to carry multiple independently targetable warheads, each one capable of striking a separate city. But the true centerpiece was the DF-61, a road-mobile ICBM designed not just for power, but for survivability. Unlike a silo, it can move along highways, disperse to rural pads, or vanish into China's underground Great Wall, the thousands of kilometers of tunnels and bunkers cut beneath the northern provinces. These tunnels, largely invisible to satellites, guarantee that a portion of China's arsenal survives even the most ambitious first strike. And China's buildup is no longer theoretical. In 2019, estimates put China's arsenal at around 300 warheads. By 2023, that number had doubled, and US intelligence now projects it will climb toward 1,000 by 2030. This rapid growth is not lost on Beijing's adversaries. America did not intervene directly in Ukraine, in part because Russia's nuclear arsenal made escalation unthinkable. But presidents have pledged, again and again, to intervene if Taiwan is attacked, precisely because China's deterrent was long thought insufficient. By parading road-mobile missiles in public, Beijing is announcing that this assumption is collapsing. The parade also revealed the JL-3, a submarine-launched ballistic missile carried by China's growing fleet of nuclear subs, with a range sufficient to strike the continental United States from patrol zones in the South China Sea. JL-3 closes a gap that once left Chinese deterrence vulnerable. A decade ago, Chinese submarines had to push far into the Pacific to threaten American cities. Today, with 8 such vessels in service, they can patrol close to home and still hold Washington at risk. Then came the JL-1, China's first air-launched nuclear missile. It will be equipped by H-6N bombers that can be refueled mid-air, making its range to 8,000 kilometers. Its role is more political than military. In extremis, it could be used for a tactical demonstration shot, a low-yield detonation in the empty Pacific or high in the atmosphere, a warning flare to Washington that escalation control is no longer theirs to dictate. Layered on top, China's strategic air defenses, the HQ-19 and HQ-29, advertised as intercepting both ballistic missiles and stealth aircraft. American bombers like the B-2 Spirit, which have launched deep penetration strikes from Kosovo to Iraq, could no longer assume uncontested skies. Its strike on Iranian facilities in June depended on clearing an air corridor first. China intends to deny such corridors from the first minute. Then came the convoys of YJ series anti-ship missiles, the YJ-15, YJ-17, YJ-19, YJ-20, and the hypersonic YJ-21, rolled by, each designed to put American carriers at risk. The YJ-21 in particular dives at Mach 10 in its terminal phase, maneuvering violently to slip through Aegis defenses. A single hit could cripple a carrier worth billions. And Beijing coupled these with something new: naval drones. The HSU-100, an unmanned submarine, the AJX-002, a modular undersea drone able to mine harbors or carry missiles. A dozen such drones, operating in coordination, could threaten American bases across the Pacific, just as Ukrainian naval drones crippled the Russian Black Sea Fleet. At least, the drone could drop sonar systems that could significantly disrupt America's nuclear submarines. Some Chinese analysts even suggest the HSU-100 could be fitted with tactical nuclear payloads, a suicide drone capable of annihilating an approaching task group. This duality is the heart of Beijing's message. At the top, nuclear escalation risk. At the bottom, conventional saturation of seas and skies. If Washington intervenes, it risks not only nuclear war, but the loss of carriers, destroyers, submarines. And yet Beijing knows Washington might not stay out. That is why the next layer of its war plan is about sheer volume, missile saturation to paralyze Taiwan before help can arrive. The lesson from Ukraine is clear. Limited salvos are survivable. Russia launched missiles and drones, but bottlenecks in production meant it could never sustain high-intensity bombardment. Ukraine managed to withstand the missile offensive, and Russia have to resort to glide bombs to conquer cities like Avdiivka. China believes it can do better. The PLA rocket force commands thousands of missiles, with factories capable of producing hundreds more each year. At the parade, the DF-17 hypersonic glide vehicle was shown off, its warhead maneuvering at Mach 5+ to evade interceptors. Alongside it, the DF-26D, an intermediate-range Guam killer. Behind them, convoys of cruise missiles, designed to strike from unexpected bearings. Taiwan's air defenses are formidable but finite. Around a dozen Patriot PASI-3 batteries and a similar number of Skybow 3s. Each launcher holds only so many interceptors. Each reload takes time. Each crew can only fight so long before exhaustion. Saturation doctrine accepts some interceptions, but overwhelms the system. 100 missiles inbound, then another 100 minutes later, then another 100 from different directions. Sooner or later, the defense will be penetrated. The experience of the 12-day war in June 2025 is telling. Iran's barrages against Israel initially met high interception rates, but by the second week missiles slipped through at far higher ratios. China's industrial capacity is far greater than Iran's. It could achieve such penetration rate far quicker. With air defenses battered, the next contest is in the skies. Taiwan's faith lies in its 200 F-16Vs, upgraded with modern avionics and missiles. Ukrainians with only a dozen such jets managed to keep Russia from achieving complete dominance. Taiwan, with more, believes it can do the same. But China's answer is the J-20 stealth fighter, especially the twin-seat J-20S. The second seat is not for comfort, but for command, to orchestrate loyal wingman drones. These unmanned fighters can maneuver at 15 Gs, impossible for humans. They can feint, bait, and soak up missiles. Every missile fired at a drone is one not fired at a stealth jet. China would prefer to fight beyond visual range, guided by its radar networks and KJ-500 airborne controllers. But here, Taiwan has an edge. With American electronic warfare support, its data links will not be easily severed, its radars not easily blinded. The problem of interoperability that plagued India's forces does not exist here. Taiwan's systems are built to mesh with American jammers and EW platforms. For Beijing, this means air combat will likely devolve into closer range engagements and dogfights. That is where loyal wingman drones tip the balance. Machines immune to fatigue, flying maneuvers no pilot can match. The goal is not the immediate annihilation of Taiwan's air force, but localized superiority. Over an invasion corridor, over a blockade zone, just enough to allow Chinese transports and bombers to move undercover. This is where China hopes to succeed where Russia failed. But the skies are only part of the problem. Another lesson from Ukraine is that drones do not just strike the front, they devastate the rear. These attacks made significant armor concentration impossible, not to mention a mechanized offensive that relies heavy resupply. Essentially, drones have changed warfare significantly, making maneuverable warfare impossible and reduced into World War I style of attrition. In June 2025, Ukraine's long-range drone attacks on Russian air bases, dubbed Operation Spiderweb, proved that even deep in supposedly safe territory, critical infrastructure can be destroyed. For Beijing, that was a chilling preview. Taiwan, with US help, will certainly attempt the same. China's answer was paraded openly. The counter-drone triad, lasers to burn drones out of the sky with light itself, high-power microwaves to fry circuits across entire swarms, gun missile hybrids, rapid-fire cannons and short-range interceptors to catch what remains. Together, they form a dome over logistics nodes, air bases, supply lines. They do not make swarms irrelevant, but they make them expensive. With such protection, the PLA's combined arms brigades could experience far better odds in mounting offensive. the same logic was applied to armor. China displayed new tanks with active protection systems to defeat top attack drones, alongside robotic breachers and engineers. They are also much lighter, equipped with modular sensors that could act as reconnaissance missions, providing the perfect guiding platform for China's PHL-16 rocket launchers and artillery that could attack Taiwan from the mainland. At sea, ship-mounted lasers extend this shield to blockading task groups. Taiwan's likeliest asymmetric weapon, explosive drone boats, would be thinned long before they reached close-in defenses. Thus, Taiwan would find it much harder to perform the feat such as the sinking of Moscow against China's navy. And then came the robot wolves. They can patrol perimeters, masking mobilization by reducing visible troop movements. They can scout under jamming, carrying optical sensors and radio sniffers into denied zones. They can haul munitions and mount machine guns, multiplying squad firepower. And crucially, they shrink the human tail. Fewer troops exposed means fewer hospitals, fewer blood convoys, fewer signs that betray mobilization to satellites. For US intelligence trying to detect an invasion 6 months in advance, that makes the task harder. For decades, Taiwan has hoped to deter Beijing by threatening urban warfares that could impose heavy casualties, and China's mass deployment of robots seemed precisely aimed to counter that. At display, in addition to robot wolves, are machines that can trigger ambushes, detonate mines, lay smoke, or build bridges under fire. From Gaza to Mariupol, the lesson of modern warfare is that ascites devour soldiers. Beijing's lesson is simple. Let machines take the first blow. Attrition will always be bloody, but better robots than men. Apart from these, the strategic meaning of the parade is abundantly clear. First, cost. China spends only 1.6 to 1.8% of GDP on defense, far below Cold War America or the Soviet Union. It can sustain this build-up for decades without strangling its economy. For Taiwan, this means each year the gap grows wider. Second, speed. In just a decade since the 2015 PLA reforms, China has leapt from a largely ground-heavy defensive force to one fielding hypersonics, stealth jets, directed energy weapons, and robotic armor. That pace itself is coercion. Taipei does not just see today's arsenal, it sees tomorrow's inevitability. Third, leverage. With nukes credible, salvos overwhelming, drones countered, and robots absorbing attrition, Beijing gains confidence to pressure without firing a shot. Blockades, missile tests, economic squeezes, all backed by the knowledge that the military balance is shifting inexorably. Negotiation then looks less like surrender and more like prudence. However, history has shown that great powers like America do not back on such coercion easily. It may well double down on its move away from the One China policy and speed up the plan to arm Taiwan so it can drag China into a prolonged conflict. But with the speed and scale of China's military modernization, this strategy may be too little, too late.